Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Autodesk or micrographics webinar on Autodesk recap. And we're going to have a look at leveraging point clouds using Autodesk Docs. Just a reminder that there is a lag between our transmission and your receiving. If you do have any queries, please put that into the chat and we will deal with that as the queries come in. So point clouds, reality scans, they are very popular today and they can add a lot of value to your workflow. In our agenda today is going to be just a quick introduction about what we are looking at, then scan registration. We're going to look at if you've got a bunch of scans, what is a structured versus unstructured and automatic versus manual registrations. Then to publish point clouds to docs, to navigate and inspect in docs, and then to permanently sync to your devices if you'd like. And we'll deal with that as we go through that. So 3D laser scans, they can be very accurate and they can be quite large. They can go up to about 300 meters, submillimetric or millimetric accuracy. And a lot of people use them for reality capturing mines and existing structures, as built, legacy, whatever information is there, even changing from year to year. I've heard of people scanning foundations from year to year to see if they shift. Even things like roads, rehabilitation workflows, picking up where the potholes are. There's a plethora of ways in which you can use this technology using laser scanning, but we also have it in photogrammetry. That would be, instead of using LiDAR and expensive laser equipment scanners, you can also use high definition photographs, take it from various different angles, and then the software is clever enough to be able to give you a three-dimensional point cloud, albeit that is known as an unstructured scan. It's not georeferenced, and you can then later on reference that scan. In this webinar, on purpose, I've used one of the Autodesk examples. That's a relatively large scan. It's not a small scan. So to show you that the browser can actually handle that quite well. So, and then that browser is going to interact with the scan through software called Autodesk Docs, and that is then what we're going to use to view that. The environment in which I envisage this, although there might be quite a few, I was involved a few years ago, doing some restaurants, and the restaurants are a new fit out for an existing building, and whoever goes into the restaurant has to measure up the restaurant. But of course the walls are not always straight and you're never quite sure about what is inside of that building. And it's my opinion then, and it's still my opinion now, that having something like a laser scan is actually a much better idea. Contract somebody to do that for you. There are various different companies in South Africa that can do that for you, although Micrographics isn't one of them. The software that we support does accommodate those scans and interface with the other design or authoring software that we support. So it is a very important workflow and one that I recommend. Measuring up as built buildings is tedious, time consuming. Typically one would go on site with a measuring tape and a camera, take a measurement, take a picture of the measurement just to make sure that you're 100% correct, and go back and model it up as best, but you're never quite sure if it's the real thing or not. And reality capture helps you with that. This thing about 2026 and the scan to mesh capability of Autodesk Repap is brilliant. I've done some videos and blogs about that before. In the past, we used to have mining companies, and the mining companies would go down into the mine shafts and they would scan the mine shafts and automate the mine, and then they would want to know, is the equipment that they are manufacturing going to fit or are they going to clash with the mine shaft? And again, this mesh capability of Autodesk Repap is great, although that's not the purpose of today's webinar. I just wanted to mention that so that you know that it is much easier to do that these days, to convert those files into files that can be clashed with other files. All right, and the first thing we're going to have a look is the scan registration. I do have a relatively small laptop that I work with. So I'm going to remote into a much bigger machine, which is in our Pinewood's office. And this is what Autodesk Docs look like for those of you that are not familiar with Autodesk Docs. Autodesk Docs, this is being viewed through Chrome. I found Chrome to be the best. I can use Edge as well. I wouldn't recommend any other browsers. And there is the folder structure that I'm using. One tends to use it quite succinctly, maybe put a description next to the folder so you know what you're looking at. And then somewhere or other, you're going to have a folder. I'm not going to explain the folder structure or anything like that. It's not really necessary. Just to say that I've got this RCP folder in here, where you can see that there is an existing project that I've already created. And within that RCP folder is an existing project. And we'll refer to this later so that we don't have to wait for the software to do its thing before the cloud is available. We can just have a look straight at this file over there and navigate the point cloud for ourselves. So it's something that I've done before, but I want to show you how to initiate that point cloud if you do have the scans. So make sure that I've got the chat available to me just in case somebody does ask questions. That's good. All right. So going back to the folder structure that we're going to work with, I've got on my D drive, I've just created a temporary folder, and in that temporary folder, I've stored a whole bunch of point cloud, basically the RCS files. So if you look at the RCS files, those are the ones that you need, and you can see it's quite a large amount of data. Let's just see how much that data would be. If we look at the properties, that's about 20 gigabytes worth of scans. And it's very easy to get very large scans. This is typical of the sort of size that you could expect. This computer itself, it's rather old, but it's a good computer. If we have a look at the specs over here, it's a 32 gigabytes i7 and with an 8 gig graphics card, a 1070 GTX 1070. So it's quite an old computer, but it's still doing its thing. So it's not a slouch. Nice fast processor, lots of RAM, and a relatively good graphics card. And of course, if you deal with bigger point clouds, then you might even need more. But for now, this is fine. And this is the folder from which we will work. So if you fired up Recap and you open it just as it is, it will look something like this. It's part of your Autodesk Construction Cloud license. So Micrographics also has a website. And there you can actually see all the software that is within the AEC collection, included software, all the included software. You can see with the AEC collection, what you typically get, you can buy Recap on its own, but it normally comes with your AEC collection subscription. And it's one of those apps that are brilliant. And I would want you to use Autodesk Recap Pro if you have the opportunity. It's great software and it integrates very well with a lot of other software. For instance, AutoCAD, Revit, Civil 3D, InfraWorks, Navisworks these days with the scan to mesh as well. 3ds Max, most or a lot of the capabilities, if it's AutoCAD based or if it's Revit or any modeling sort of software with its salt, will typically be able to link in or to reference in a point cloud. So that is what I would recommend. If you do have an AEC collection, you've already got that. And of course, you have also a Docs license. So your Autodesk Docs, there's Autodesk Drive, Autodesk Docs. I hope they mention it over here on our website. Included software. The shorter Docs license, but you get Autodesk Docs. You get that with your AEC collection as well. Gives you a unlimited storage space on an Amazon server, so you don't have to worry about, oh, it's 20 gigabytes, it's 100 gigabytes, it's 200 gigabytes, it's 500 gigabytes worth of point clouds. That's not going to matter. You got your AEC collection, you got unlimited storage space on the Autodesk Construction Cloud, which is hosted on Amazon servers. It's secure, it's safe, and of course, because it's cloud-based, you can now invite anybody else onto that project as well. So that's just the sort of background to it. We did mention that we're accessing the point cloud through the web, but I think we should also mention that the Autodesk Construction Cloud comes with something called Autodesk Docs, the Autodesk Desktop Connector. It's an application which works a bit like Dropbox in the sense that it's going to synchronize files that are on the cloud down to your hard drive. There's a lot more to it than that, but essentially you can select your projects, and after you've selected your projects, you will find them listed in your file browser. There we can see the project that I'm busy with at the moment, and whatever files you have got over here, you can have available on your hard drive. We'll talk about this a little bit later, but just notice that there is this link between your hard drive and the cloud, just like there would be with a Dropbox or a OneDrive or any cloud-based service. Typically, you would have the files on your hard drive and on the cloud, and you would have somewhere the mechanism to unload files on your computer onto the cloud, release that synchronization if you're not busy with the project. So that's all within here. Once you initiate the cloud project, it would become quite intense very quickly, because it's going to start uploading an enormous amount of data, 20 gigabytes in this case, onto the cloud. So it will take some time to synchronize that entire project onto the cloud at that time. I think just in preparation of that, I'll open up a second computer in the background just to make sure that we can have the required interface. Construction.autodesk.com, and let's just quickly sign in. This would be, you've also got a choice about where your hub will be stored, if it's in America or in the European Union. We don't have one in South Africa yet. Just want to put the authenticator code in quickly. Then we've got two computers that we can use to demonstrate when necessary, or if necessary. Okay. All right, so back to the other computer. We are now on the original computer, and there is our Autodesk Recap Pro. We don't want to create a photo project. A photo project is essentially if you have a whole bunch of photos and you want to generate an unstructured photogrammetrically generated point cloud. In this case, we're actually dealing with a scan, and so we can import point clouds, or we can do photo to 3D. Like I said, that's the photogrammetry bit of it. There we can give the project a new name, and we can say where do we want to save that. So I'm going to call that webinar point cloud, and I can save that in D drive temp. Save webinar scan. That's fine. Select folder. All right, proceed. That will create the project, and now I can select files to import, and I'm going to use these webinar scans. It supports various different file formats from different scanners, and the different scanners will also have different levels of information that they'll impart onto those point clouds. So the registration of point clouds, I mean, it's slightly integrated in how the scans are generated. In this case, the coordinate system for these scans have already been included in the RCS file, so we don't particularly have to worry about it, although I am going to maybe display some of it for you. So we'll open that, and you can see that the files are coming in. And then the next thing to do is to have a look at registration. So all of these scans are structured because they come from a laser scanner. If we had unstructured data, something like a point cloud that was generated from photogrammetry, that would be an unstructured, and then we would either have to reference it to an existing structured scan, or we would have to try and identify targets and set the coordinates and make it into a structured scan somehow. So there's the registration, and there you can see they've got a bit of an introduction. This is how you try and identify areas, so you can actually work between the different scans. I'm going to say, okay, I'm just waiting for this to prepare the registration there. Can we close this? I'll just wait for it. So your goal is to connect all scans by placing colored markers on the matching points. This is if you do a manual registration. You can identify targets in scans to get target reporting information and enhance registration quality. And target selection tips. So you know that you would actually do on site. You would literally take a poster or something like that with a target and go and put it up against the wall somewhere so that it appears in the different scan locations. It's a commonality between the scan locations. If you have more than one target, then that's even better. I'm just going to demonstrate for you that you can you can start doing that without having an exact scan. So if you look at around the scan, it looks a bit like a photograph. And in fact, the scanner does do a photograph. And in the background, there is point information. There's a jeweler's store with a blue apron over there. And then that's basically a town square. And I can go and have a look and see, all right, how do we register scans? So choose a structured scan to use as the starting point, or press enter and click on the new registration button when you've chosen the structured scan you want to start with. Okay, so when you succeed, any existing registration data will be discarded. So if I choose 2, please enter or click the new registration group button. Yeah. So this is now treating 2 as the just waiting for it. Okay, got it. So this is now when you manually you're treating the one on the left, number 2, as the structured scan. And then over here we've got, let's see, if we look at that blue apron over there, we can say we need to match scan number 3 on the right hand side manually. Okay, so if you were doing this manually, this is what you would do. I would suggest that you actually go and paste some targets here on the actual buildings, maybe on the corners where you're scanning from. Obviously the professionals, they've got much more experience in this, but there you can see the commonality between the 2 scans. On the left and on the right, we've got the jeweler Nolke, juwelier Nolke. We've got that on the left and we've got that on the right. And essentially, if you're going to place these points like this, you have to put a point and then another point and then another point. So that's blue, green, blue, red. And then you try and find the same points in the other scan. as close to what you can. And what it's going to do now is going to look for commonalities. It says it's a poor match. If you're going to say merge scan, it's refining it. It'll look for common points or points that are close to each other, commonalities. Just wait for it. Shouldn't take too long. It's refining. There we go, and we see, let's look at the review. And the review tells me let's go back, that there's an overlap of balance and points less than 6. Let's approve that. And then one would go on to the next. One would go on to the next scan. And then you can choose either one of them to start referencing back to that again. So if we go back to number 2 and we say I want now to create a match between or in this apron, and here's the apron over there, and again we do exactly the same thing, try and pick up 3 points. And again, if you've got targets, then the targets can help with that, and you can also set the coordinate system based on some of the target acquisitions. You can input the XYZ. There we go. Let's give that a go. Let's merge the scan. It's refining the merging. It's using a bit of algorithms in the background to do that for us. And we would now have to run through every scan like that and try and link them to each other if they haven't been registered. So we're lucky in this case, they have been registered. So we don't have to go all the way with this. So if we wanted, we could just skip this process, and we'll do that just after this, just after we've done this one. So you can see you'd have to run through all those scans if this was a manual registration. It's quite incredible the detail that comes out of this. This is not a rendering. Those are actual people that sat there at that time. That was an actual person there at that time, and there you can see that number 4 would have been done. If we go back to the import files, we suspend the project, and I'm going to create a new project. Once again, import cloud. I'm going to call that webinar PC2, point cloud 2. Proceed. Again, I'm going to select exactly the same files, but this time we'll do an auto registration. So if they've already been registered, or if they were scanned in a specific way that they have been registered already, then that would be a simple process. So depending on the equipment that you've got and the methods that you've used, you can auto register the scans. That's when it looks for commonalities automatically. In this case, I know that these scans have already been registered, so I'm just going to skip the registration, and it's going to generate the entire point cloud for me. So it uses all those little RCP files, and it's going to have a look at them now, and RCS files, and it's going to create an RCP file from them. We just have to wait for that. Let's see what the computer is doing. You can see that there's no real bottleneck. The hard drive is a little busy, but it's not using too much memory, and the CPU is not overly taxed as well either. And neither is the GPU. Just want to check if the graphics settings is set to use the correct graphics card. It should be. You know, the Windows have done this new thing where if your software automatically wants to switch your graphics card off. Let's just see if we can find Autodesk. It's called Reality Capture. So you can find, wonder where recap is. Let's quickly see if we can find it. That's on C drive. Maybe it was installed on D drive. D drive, program files, Autodesk. Autodesk recap, there it is. This recap add. And let's just make sure that the options are set to high performance. Okay, so they've sort of retrofitted Windows 10 with the same behavior as Windows 11. So now the work should be pushed onto the graphics card. So you see the disk is very busy. And it's busy generating the point cloud for us. There you can see that it's now stitching all those individual scans together in a nice big scan. 20 gigabytes worth of scanning data. And it's generating this model for us, uptown or whatever it is that we are scanning. So you can do quite large scans and load them onto the Autodesk Construction Cloud for reference. This will take a little while, hopefully not too long, and in this case it's literally, it's a old SATA hard drive which is limiting the speed at which this is generating. Just run out a bit of space on the main SSD, and that's what it's doing. So we'll leave that running, and not to waste time, we'll switch out to the other computer. I'm actually going to have a look at the other computer over here. This is now, let's just have a look at the same project. Same type of point cloud. Again, we're in docs. That's the online folder. This computer also has the desktop connector on it and everything else. But in this case, we're just working directly through the browser. There's my civils team. And in my civils team, I typically have the different software separated from each other in folders. So that's Civil 3D and RCP, just that's the point clouds that are there. So it's exactly the same scan. You can see that there's a Bielefeld folder, and then there's a Bielefeld support folder. In the Bielefeld support folder is where the actual scan data is kept. So after recap is done with it, then it will, if you load it onto the cloud, then it will actually load all those scans onto your computer like this. And the nice thing about docs is it's actually a viewer. So if you open the RCP file directly, you just click on it, that opens the scan in your browser. And it could be Chrome or it could be Edge. I would recommend you use either just Chrome or Edge. They're the ones that are most suited to Autodesk workflows. You'll find that some of the other ones, they don't always play nice with Autodesk software. And this is what you'll see online. This is what anybody will see online, whether you got Recap or Recap Pro or not. So whether or not you got this sort of software that we initiated the scan with, you're still going to be able to navigate this. So on the left-hand side, you can see that you can create groups from the scans. So if you're going to put some of the groups together, you can see them over there. There's the alley group, and there's the tree group. So you can create groups if you wanted. You can see you can create a folder, and then you can create a scan group. And then that scan group you can either switch on or off. I'm just going to ungroup that. Yes. All right, so you can create your own scan groups. And if you isolated them, for instance, let's just collapse them all. Sorry. So those are all the scans. If I switch them off, now everything should be off. And if I wanted to switch the alley group on, you can see there's a group of scans over here that are in the alley. And as you navigate this, it will reduce the number of points or make the points more. There you can see a sort of a sphere that's hanging around in space. So those spheres are actually the camera positions. So that's the alleyway. And inside the alleyway, you can see there's these spheres. So the numbers over here correspond to that sphere. So if you click on number 35, it will navigate to this sphere. It will resolve itself into basically a photograph. And it depends, if you switch to the real view, it will actually then allow you to orbit. And you can see some of the other spheres in the background over there as well. And there we can see what this application looks like there, and we can actually have a look around. So if you were responsible, say for argument's sake, for measuring the entrance over here, and you want to model this in Revit, but you're not too sure about the dimension, then you could try and zoom out a bit, zoom back a bit, see if we can get a full measurement there with the opening. So if we do an annotation, this is now basically leveraging that point to that point there. And I don't think you can edit it. You can delete it. You'd have to find somewhere the viewpoint from which you can actually see this in totality. Yeah, it's a bit tricky. So maybe we should have asked the guy with the scan just to go back a bit to see this one over there. And now, of course, we're too far. All right. Alternatively, we could switch out into the all display. Switch back to the point cloud view. And now we should be able to just navigate a little bit back so we can see the full height. There we go. All right, so this will give me a good vantage point, and then you can give that annotation as close as what you can get. It will pick up a cloud point closest to where you click. And then take that up to the top closest to where you click. You can limit this to the Z axis. Now if I move my mouse around, it actually limits me to the Z axis, which is quite nice. Now I get it as close to the... All right, so I can see that opening is 2.325 millimeters. And there I can put another dimension. This time maybe I can have that in the, I think that's the Y direction. Not 100% sure, but we can see. No, it's the X direction that I want to be. So there's the X direction. That's going off in a different direction. Okay, let me rather not have that at all, just in any direction. And this is obviously the width, 1.594, and that is the width of the wall. So the closer you are to the objects, the easier you're going to measure them. However, if you are in a position to switch to the real view, be inside there, then you can get a much more accurate representation, say from that corner to the door, and then you can model that. Same over there. So it's relatively easy for you then to go and measure up your building. And the idea is that you don't have to go on site with a measuring tape to go and grab the relevant information. And there are even better workflows than this, where we scan to mesh within Autodesk Recap itself, and we can actually pick out the individual items so that we can create a poly mesh, say, from the entire face of this wall, and so on and so forth. So this is the method of navigating your point clouds. There's the point clouds. These are view states, overall. So areas where you've actually saved. So if you go to your overall, that's the entire scan. If you look at the statue, then it's going to take you into the courtyard at a cathedral, and that's now going to show us the cathedral area, where it's sort of in the middle of the town. There's a cathedral, there's some people sitting over there, and there you can see that's your view state. So it's this really amazing ability to choose exactly where you want to view from. So that's scan number 3. There we're going to see the jeweler's, there we can see the jeweler's apron that we tried to register earlier. It's the same vantage point. And if we compare that to the tree group, that was scan number 2. I think we started off with scan number 2. Scan number 2 will then also show us that apron, if I remember correctly. There we are. All right, so that was scan number 2, the scan that we started with. And then over here we can see they've obviously included this tree as the tree group, and that is the tree group. And again, you can switch everything off, or you can switch some things on. The tree group looks like this, and that would be scans that depict where the trees are, showing our mirror balls, or navigating to a specific mirror ball within the tree group. That's scan number 1. And there you can see where it is. So this is what you can do in Autodesk Docs. You can't, unfortunately, put any issues like we used to in Autodesk Docs to put issues down here or anything like that. But we do have what is available to us there. Okay. Switching back to another computer. We can now see how this has completed that process. There's the same scans that we've created, or that's been registered. And this is then the home tab, and over here you can see we can obviously save this file. It's maybe a good idea at this moment. Save this project, and then we'll push it into the cloud using this over there, publish. and then it will say, what do you want to publish? And where do you want to publish it to? So in this case, we're just going to navigate then to that folder, micrographics. These are file over there. And then what are we going to call this? I'm just going to call this, so in RCP, I'm going to create the project called Webinar PC2. So I'm going to call this Webinar PC2. And that's within the RCP folder. Okay, in this folder, we'll call it new folder Webinar PC2. In fact, I think this will be sufficient. Let's get rid of this. Delete. Just this folder. Yes. Select folder. And we want to give it a name, that name. Yes. And then we can go publish. That's right. Okay, so we give it a project name and we give it that RCP folder. Then it will create the project in there. Publish. And this will now take quite a while because it will use the desktop connector to generate the synchronization as well. So you can see there's the RCP2. It's actually created that. And then you'll see the update on the uploading of that information from here. It's now going to run through 20 gigabytes. Then it's going to upload onto the Autodesk Construction Cloud. And there we can see it's busy doing its thing. And if there are any issues, it will actually highlight it for you within the desktop connector when it's synchronizing from your hard drive up into the Autodesk Construction Cloud. So maybe at this stage, you kind of want to go for a weekend. Leave your computer to finish up. It won't take entirely a weekend. Maybe it depends on your internet connectivity, of course. But it will take a while. And that will then start uploading, copying, and synchronize. And the result is going to be what you see here. That is the result which we saw on the other computer. It's exactly the same process that I followed with these files here. And so that is a great capability of the Autodesk Construction Cloud. Now, you can also link the Autodesk Construction Clouds into software as is, or you can also export them in mesh format. So I want to demonstrate something on the File Explorer side. Why is this like that now? So I'll show you on my computer over here. I should have quite a bit of space on my C drive. So I've got enough space on my C drive here. So if you were working with Civil 3D maybe, or Revit, and you were linking that point cloud in, it's going to be very heavy on your computer, but some of your computers are very strong. They can do that. Maybe the point cloud's a bit smaller. Or maybe you want to work with Recap and you want to process that cloud in Recap, because remember that Recap can operate directly off the cloud because the files are synchronized to your hard drive. Now, you have the ability, they've changed the way in which Windows actually manages this. If you go to your settings, and I think it's on your storage, your system storage. I think it's under storage. On your storage settings, there's something over here with your storage sense in Windows 11. And then you can see that there's delete locally available cloud content. There we can see Autodesk Docs. So what's happening over here is if you haven't worked with a file for 14 days, then Windows is going to unload the file from your hard drive and then leave it on the cloud, as opposed to synchronizing it onto your computer. It's a bit limited in its options. You can do never 1 day for 2 weeks, 30 days, or 60 days. But if you wanted to work with this, say, for the next 2 weeks, then you would set that to 2 weeks, and then that would happen like that. Or if you want it permanently on your hard drive so it doesn't accidentally say unload, then you can go to that folder. There's the RCP folder. There's Bielefeld. That is the scan that we were talking about, right? We can actually right click on that or go to this and then say this folder I want to have permanently on this device. So if I always keep it on this device, what that will do is it will initiate a synchronization for this folder and will start synchronizing this folder onto my hard drive. And you should be able to see within the folder it's busy synchronizing now. But you can just as well say to this folder, no, I don't want to have you on there. I'm going to free up space, and then it will unload it from your computer again. So I don't particularly want this 20 gig point cloud on my hard drive, but you have this ability to permanently sync that down onto your hard drive, so you have that available. So those two things work together, and then you can see how that works. The Cape Town item, right? So it says it's published successfully. Let's have a look at the project data. There's our micrographics, work in progress. And there we can see that it's going to take some time to process, but it's got Webinar PC2, Webinar PC2 support. And in Webinar PC2 support, it's now synchronizing all those cloud files, all those RCS files. Saved the file. It's sitting on this hard drive, and now it wants to complete its doings. So I'm just going to save and close this. And I'll run it on the other computer, and I'll just show you what it looks like. It's exactly the same thing, but I don't think we'll have time to demonstrate today. In addition to what we've done, the scan to mesh capability or anything like that, we've done other videos on that. But this is a great tool, and anybody that's got a docs license, can use. I have no idea why this is happening. Task Manager. Just close down File Explorer. Anybody that's got an Autodesk docs license can view this cloud scan. Exactly, it is. I think what's happening over here is that the project is just snarling up the office on the other side because of the synchronization of that large data. So what I'll do is I'll just maximize this quickly. Let's see if we can minimize anything on there. Come on. Send Control Alt Delete. Task Manager. Okay, we're just waiting for this computer to respond. Let's close down Chrome. And let's close down sorry, I didn't mean to run into this issue here. Come on. That's strange. Can see if we can short it from this side. I'll be able to exit the desktop connector from this side just to stop the synchronization process. It's not the aim of this website, but I think synchronizing that. Do you still wish to close desktop connector? Yes, we'll just free up the bandwidth on the other computer, so apologies for that. In any case, the process stays the same. You can then open up the point cloud on the web, right? And so we just want to recap quickly through the PowerPoint. So you can publish to, you basically open it your hard drive, you publish it to docs, and after it's published to docs, then you can navigate it on a web browser and measure as well. And then you can also choose to permanently sync, and you can set the upload or the unload time through Windows. And in conclusion, you can use docs to host your point clouds, unlimited storage space, and not necessarily synchronized to your hard drives. You can save a lot of hard drive space so that they are available to everybody on the team as well. So anybody that's with a docs license that you've given access, they can actually open the point cloud, use it to measure, do their work, generate topographies if they're using Civil 3D, generate meshes. If they've got the Autodesk Construction Cloud, they'll be able to use Recap Pro to generate meshes. So there's a whole bunch of things you can do there. And so I didn't see any questions come through. Just some other links that you can maybe have a look into. There's the Recap Pro online help. If any of you actually want to have a look at that, there's a lot of help about how you get started, how you set up everything, from scans to registration, all that. There is the Autodesk Construction Cloud if you want. They rebranding this one of these days. So I think it's going to be called Autodesk Forma now. Docs is becoming Forma Data Management. So there's a lot of info on the Autodesk Construction Cloud. Basically what's available. There's Autodesk University. Autodesk University has lectures every year. They get together in Las Vegas to demonstrate what's available. If you had to go and search over there or just sign in, search for Recap, then you'll find some sort of university type lectures, maybe with some data sets or demonstrations as well. And basically you just go and search that and you find there's an introduction to Recap Pro, advanced workflows, and so on and so forth. And there's a nice resource there if you want to go further. That's what the best in the world are doing with Recap. There's our YouTube channel, our webinar series, and our blogs as well. So you're welcome also just to have a look at micrographics, our websites, and what's available. So that's our YouTube channel. We've got the webinar series. And then we've also got the micrographics blogs. So of course, we don't only do AEC, there's also manufacturing, and there's a whole bunch of things available that you can see. Right, So with that, always there's Jivo, sales consultant Nicole, or anyone that's available will be able to interface with you. If you have any questions, please let us know. We'd be happy to meet with you to discuss if Recap Pro can add value to your company, to your workflow, save you some time and money. And these are contact details. Remember to subscribe, like and share if you'd like. And then if you want to contact us, www.mgfx.co.za is the website. And any queries you can send through to info@mgfx.co.za. With that, I wish you, since there are no questions, a wonderful day and a lovely weekend, and enjoy Autodesk Recap. Bye now.